Thank you. Sparkly, ruby red shoes worn by feet daintily clad in light blue ankle socks rotate outward at the heels and then pull back in and click 3 times. Dorothy's face comes into focus with Glinda, the good witch of the East, just behind her, giving the red-shoed Dorothy the magic words, "There's no place like home. There's no place like home." She clicks her heels. There's no place like home. And Dorothy's face fades from the bright Technicolor world of Oz to the black and white drab farmhouse of the tornadic Kansas plains. Yet, however humble, that farmhouse was the place where Dorothy was known, loved, cared for, and protected. For me, the symbolism and the message is clear. No enchanted land of bright, shiny things veiling shallow underpinnings can hold a candle to the feeling of being home. Dorothy was lost in the dream world of Oz, a fantastical, illusory, alluring, but one-dimensional landscape. The friends Dorothy met on the way were the archetypes of broken spirits. In the land of Oz, those odd fellows, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion, had become separated from what made them human. A mind, conscience, compassion, a heart, and courage. Those friends were kind and well-meaning, but not helpful to Dorothy, as they were unable to connect with her pain or empathize with her feelings of being lost, of being separated from those who gave meaning and purpose to her life. Thus was Dorothy desperate to get home again. There is no place like home. There is no feeling like that of familial connection giving rise to who we are in this world. And even when homes may be uncomfortably humble and relationships less functional and loving, our want as humans is to seek the comforts as well as the discomforts of home, rather than choosing to be alone. Humans are hardwired for connection, and there's no getting around the fact that we need one another. Now, I personally despair of the degree to which I see the human family around me suffer disconnection and isolation, often through the idolatry of individualism. And secularism, without a widely held sense of community, diminishes investment in public good, leaving too many lives on the margins. Those who can dwell behind locked gates, unaware and uninterested in what goes on outside those gates. And so, like muscle mass lost to disuse, the human qualities of connection, compassion, conscience, and courage shrivel. It's too easy to get lost in the illusion that we don't need one another. So thank goodness we have a home in this fellowship at which we can together reset our moral compass and hone our spiritual muscles. There's no place like home. Yes, that is the theme of our current stewardship campaign, because last year at this time, you told one another that Home is what this fellowship is to you, a spiritual home, a religious home. And I will ask you to go to the next slide. A place like no other in our lives where we hold up, where we examine, explore, and practice what it means to be human. What it means to be human in relationship with that which is greater than ourselves, be that God, the universe, spirit of life, ground of being. This is our spiritual home where, like no other, we promise to walk together as we search deeply and responsibly for truth and meaning in our lives. And this is a place like no other where we practice right relationship with one another and do our best to model it in ever-widening spheres of community. This is our spiritual home where we explore what it means to be in relationship with all life that we share this biosphere with. This is the place where we exercise our spiritual muscles by living out values of justice, equity, compassion, and generosity, which can lead to transforming lives, our own as well as others. And now I have a surprise for you. Echoing the sentiment that this fellowship is a spiritual home and there is no place like home, Nick Sanchez, former member of our congregation. He may actually still be a member. He is on the path to ministry, but he's doing an internship in Pennsylvania, and he asked me if I would present this message to you. So let's let that roll. He's with his wife, Katie, and his daughter, Willow.
Hi, UUFBR. It's Nick and Katie and Willow. Just wanted to say hello and send our appreciation, our love, and our gratitude to all of the folks there. We miss you so much. And even though I am in the middle of an internship up here at Wellsprings in Chester Springs and doing a lot of outreach work with local congregations like Bucksmont UU.
Oops.
Hi, UUFBR. It's Nick and Katie and Willow. Just wanted to say hello and send our appreciation, our love, and our gratitude to all of the folks there. We miss you so much. And even though I am in the middle of an internship up here at Wellsprings in Chester Springs and doing a lot of outreach work with local congregations like Bucksmont UU and First UU at Washington Crossing, if home is where the heart is, then our spiritual home is very much back with you folks at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Boca Raton, right, Willow? It was a place where we found home. It was a place where we found welcoming. It was a place where we live up to our covenant of love being the doctrine of our faith, of service being our prayer, with all of the wonderful work that UUFBR does for its members and our community. We're just so proud to be a part of that, and we miss you and we miss the folks there. It's been hard to be away. We're looking forward to coming back and visiting soon, and really, coming home. So Just wanted to say hello, check in, and send all of our love and greetings to our spiritual home and our friends and family at UUFBR. Hello to everyone, including the new folks who may not know myself, Nick Sanchez, my wife Katie, and our daughter Willow. I hope this is just the first video of many, and I look forward to seeing you all again very soon. Much love. May you live in blessing.
There is no doubt this fellowship is a spiritual and religious home to so many of you. And in the last 18 months, you have worked diligently at making UUFBR anew in the wake of COVID, of Reverend Harris Reardon's retirement, and the exit of music director Stephanie Nixdorf. When I joined you as the interim minister in September of 2022, we began the work together of transitional ministry, and the transition team and I started gathering over 60 of you in small groups in a listening process in which you were asked about your experience of life here at this fellowship, and your most repeated word was home. Then we asked you what needs to happen at UUFBR, the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Boca Raton. UUFBR is how we manage that mouthful. We ask you what needs to happen at UUFBR before the next minister arrives. And you named music, mission, and vision, and outreach as top transitional goals. And since then, all three areas have been taken up. Brenda Smith and Ron Roth got busy right away, finding out specifically what you were looking for in a music program. And the wonderful result is Marina Machado. So thank you all who had a part in bringing her to us. And the board appointed an ad hoc team led by Clara Smith to begin a meaningful process of renewing the fellowship's mission and vision statements. And finally, at the request of Jennifer Lagatti, raise your hand, Jennifer, the endowment committee gave UUFBR a $20,000 grant for social media outreach and website updating, which has resulted in a much more robust internet presence, which is a reality of congregational life these days. And I'll say more about that in just a bit. Together, we've been working hard to create many aspects of congregational life anew so that we might show hospitality. A hospitality, a spiritual practice that goes back to the days of Abraham, that brings us Nick Sanchez and his wife, and with joy brought their daughter Willow into our presence before they had to move north. Now, in terms of hospitality, of putting best foot forward, you had already completed some of the work by the time I arrived. You had conducted a capital campaign to make needed improvements in the building and grounds. The floor in here is an example. Mold remediation is another one. And this paved the way for being as welcoming as possible to newcomers, seekers as those of us here once were. Unless you were the rare child who grew up in a Unitarian Universalist congregation. Seekers in search of religious freedom, in search of faith with reason, a pluralistic, questioning faith. This fellowship continues to invite in those in search of a religious home that is accepting, welcoming, and diverse, a place where seekers can grow spiritually, intellectually, and personally, a place from which to serve needs greater than our own, to help solve community problems and build just and equitable living for all in our community. As Unitarian Universalists, we are called to open our doors wide and reach out locally and virtually to invite others into our midst. This is so important these days, to invite those into our midst who need connection, who need to exercise their spiritual muscles, who need to slake their parched souls through worship, music, spiritual practice, religious education, coffee, and fellowship. There is so much involved in practicing such hospitality, and you have stepped up to it admirably. Now, if we go to the next slide, please. At this time last year, you named your vision for the future of this fellowship. You emphasized the relational, naming people, growth, and again, outreach as essential to the future of UUFBR. And your concerns are for hospitality, welcoming newcomers, the meaning of membership, and drawing and inviting folks from our surrounding community to be with us in our sanctuary and virtually on Sunday morning. Hybrid services, something that this fellowship is uniquely good at. A lot of much larger, much perhaps well-funded congregations don't do as good a job as these folks back here behind you. You continue along those lines by offering special services such as Solstice and Christmas Eve. You offer moonlit labyrinth walks, First Friday game nights, ways of giving back to the community like with the Super Bowl, SOUPER, and more. By putting in place a path to a clear mission and identity, by putting out the welcome mat at our physical and virtual front doors, and always inviting guests, seekers, and newcomers to next steps of involvement in the life of our fellowship, this congregation will not only grow in number, but in connection and commitment as well. And once again, this is such an important work to be involved in. As I close, and before I introduce the next video, I want to say that my time with you has been instructive, at times intense, formative, and personally challenging. And it's all good. It has been my joy and honor to walk with you as your interim minister. We have 6 months left together. And with much work remaining, let's join with energy and focus in wrapping up the stewardship drive, engaging the search for a contract minister, which I'll say more about at the annual meeting, and beginning in earnest the work of mission and vision for this congregation. Of course, I'll have more to say at the annual meeting, and I invite your questions and comments after the service and during the annual meeting and after. So now let's go, we're already to the next slide. So this represents the fruit of the $20,000 grant. This is a video that I asked Kylie Accardi to produce specifically so that we could show it at today's service. The impetus for the idea of creating a more robust presence in our fellowship, as I said, came from the insights of Jennifer Leggetti, but we also have an outreach team that is doing a wonderful job, including Mary Wickensheimer back there at the who defended us in a cyber attack. We're fine because we have Mary among us. But for now, let's take a look at this, what's called a reel, produced by Kylie Accardi, and she's back there. Why don't you go ahead and stand up, my dear? And you'll see she has produced many of these, and they can be seen on Facebook. You don't need an account. You just need to go to the website. You'll land on the homepage, and you just need to look for those symbols. You can click on them. All right. So without further ado, let's play this video. At the bottom. Should be at the bottom. Yeah, there you go.
Today's service reflects upon Soul Matters theme for February, which is the gifts of justice and equity. When we help others in need in our larger community, we create a more equitable living standard for all. When we love our neighbors as ourselves, we strengthen our connections with one another, as well as strengthen the fabric of our shared lives in Palm Beach County. So today, we are delighted to hold up the fellowship's history of generosity by highlighting our Share the Plate program, one of the many ways our fellowship reaches out to connect with our neighbors and the world beyond our walls. Let me share with you how our Share the Plate program began. In 2006, our long-term member, Mary Beth Kugler, brought the idea of sharing the plate to the UUFBR board as a way of living our Unitarian Universalist values by promoting justice, equity, and generosity.
Mary Beth, could you stand, please? One of the things I admire most about you is that you share your plate every Sunday. And in my time, I have seen you, as was reported last week, you have given over the years $95,000. We collect each Sunday until we reach $1,000. And your response to this service was so robust that we've already fulfilled the family promise.